Hey. Well, New York City, it's official. The sixth head coach, Pascal Jansen. We'll talk a little bit more about that. The boys reporting to preseason in 4 days. They'll start in chilly Orangeburg and then head to parts west. And up north of the border, Jesse Marsh, Canadian national team. Marsh wanted to have a January camp, but they can't afford it. That and a lot more coming up on NYCFC Views Live.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. NYCFC Views.
Collins approaches the shot, and New York City wins the first MLS Cup on their first try, and they're going crazy. Tiene el tiro y gol! Gol! New York City es el campeón de Major League Soccer.
The sickest New York City FC podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Hey, there he is, Roberto Abramowitz in Manhattan. I'm Glenn Crooks. I'm in Chicago for the annual Soccer Coaches Convention. I always love coming in, Roberto. You know, a lot of it is a camaraderie thing. You know, people that I've met over the years, and there's also some great sessions. Matt Crocker spoke today, the U.S. Soccer GM. I missed most of that because I was hanging with Troy Lesane a little bit, the DC United coach, and but a lot of cool stuff. And
I wish I was there. I feel bad that I didn't make it this year. I will do my best to make it next year. Where is it going to be next year?
Well, you'll like this. It's in Philadelphia.
Oh, well, that's close enough. That's a 90-minute drive for me, so all good. So I'll definitely be there.
If you can't make that, then I don't know.
Yeah, I should have made this. Just life got ahead of me, and I couldn't do it. But I'm glad you're there and representing NYCFC Views and doing a good job trying to get some inside info on DC United as they try to make the playoffs this year and not blow it at the end.
Well, we discussed that. So the full interview with Troy Lesane is going to air tomorrow on Sirius XMFC channel 157 if you're a subscriber, between 1 and 3 p.m. Eastern. First, it's Emma Hayes, then a guy named Mike Colina, who's the Chief Executive Officer of U.S. Club Soccer. And it's a good interview because we're talking about, for those who are involved in youth soccer or their children are, they're changing registration from birth year to school year, which that was a huge mess in 2017 when a switch was made. And but also talking about referee abuse and how U.S. Soccer, because Mike is on the U.S. board, how U.S. Soccer is trying to combat that, and which I think is a real important consideration. And then B.J. Callahan, the new a Philly guy, but he's in Nashville now as the head coach, and then Troy with DC United. So those are the four that
B.J. did a really good job in his interim period with the U.S. national team.
He did.
He sort of took what Berhalter did and said, let's just going to be more offensive. Let's just push forward a lot more. And the team responded really well to that. I thought they played some really good soccer during his little interim period.
Well, those two were here. They did a panel. It's interesting because one of the things BJ said, he got called to be the interim head coach, and he just chuckled and said, of course, how do you turn that down?
Right.
And but he and Troy they both have had very interesting paths to their current jobs, and they didn't have the normal journey. Like neither one of them. I mean, those are names. Like when Troy Lesane was hired as the interim coach for the Red Bulls, nobody knew who he was. When B.J. Callahan, before he was interim coach for the U.S. men's national team, which is his first head coaching position, by the way, nobody, and they both said that. They said nobody knew who we were, but they paid their dues through different ways. They were not great players, but they've studied the game.
Rarely are.
Yeah.
Rarely are. It's very rare where you have a player who's very good who turns out to be a good coach. It's very rare. It's not impossible, but it's rare. For the most part, you need middling players become really good coaches.
Well, I think they understand the whole scope, of of what players go through and things, where it's not just automatic and comes easy with the superstar caliber player. Not that they don't work at it, but some players, certainly it comes to them with less maybe effort than others.
Yeah,
or they could do things that other
some
people
things are easy for some players, and it's sort of hard for them to understand why it isn't as easy for somebody else.
Well, I'd like to talk more about some of the convention stuff. Emma Hayes she's brilliant. But let's, so we officially have, we did about 30 minutes on Pascal last week, Jansen, even though he hadn't been named yet, but it was apparent, and now the truth is out on January 6th.
We look good. We were right.
Yeah, we were right. Well, we stole it from some of our social media friends.
We borrowed it.
Yeah, Hudson River Blue did a good job on that, man. They were in front of it. That's the first time I saw it. So, and then we saw him on the streets of New York. So he's obviously in the area, as they took all these pictures of him walking, around Times Square.
Was.
Pardon?
Because sometimes they got to go and leave to be able to come back with a proper visa. So
we
don't know where he is now. It's sort of a Where's Waldo sort of situation. We have no idea if he's still in New York or not. We presume not, because they got to figure out the visa thing. And once that's done, then he'll be back, and maybe there'll be a chance for a press conference or something like that. We'll see. And if not, then we'll wait until the beginning of preseason, and then they'll do a virtual press conference.
Well, it's the number one question that I've been asked since I've been here is, have you met the New York City head coach yet, the new coach? And no, and I say, no, I haven't yet. I mean, we will at some point. I'm also interested in the staff retention. Robert Bertuggi and Mehdi Belushi, we know they're going to be there. But you wonder about the entire staff and where they're at. So that hasn't been announced yet. And I don't know.
And who he might be bringing in. I mean, if he's going to bring in, somebody that he believes has his back, somebody that he works with. And then what's going to be the hierarchy, once that all happens. So, there's going to be some changes within within the secondary staff of New York City FC. Not that people are leaving or anything, but, obviously how they operate and all that. So it's interesting to find out.
I think I either said last week or the week before, the assistants were all gathered at the groundbreaking, and the word there, got a chance to just kind of huddle up and chat a little bit, but the expectation is that they would be in Orangeburg on January the 11th to start the meetings in preparation of the players' arrival. So, things could have changed at that. What was that, 3 weeks ago now?
Yeah.
It seems even longer, but so who knows what's happened between now and then. So we don't really have the scoop, but we do know that the preseason starts soon. The preseason schedule was released. They'll go to Santa Barbara, which I checked the map. I was curious as to whether Santa Barbara is at all involved in this just tragic,
devastating
fire. I mean, I can't even.
It's north. It's north of it.
Well, no, I checked the map. It's It's on the edge, man. I mean, now who knows which way? And it all depends on how the wind blows. I mean,
and the winds are blowing up to 100 miles an hour. They have some of those gusts. I mean, those are hurricane force winds that are blowing that fire all around. It's just a horrific scene. And we've known people that have lost homes. We've known of people that are just. We've known of artists that have lost home, people that we don't know personally, but we know of. There's a lot of people that their lives have been changed forever.
I have a college.
Our heart goes out for everybody.
Well, I have a college friend who lives in Hollywood Hills with his wife and family, and they have evacuated. They're out. So, they're just hoping that, the home survives. But you see the pictures, it's really the New Zealand national team player who plays for Angel City, Ali. I'm forgetting her last name, and that's Ali Riley. She posted a thing on social media with a satellite view, I think some sort of aerial view of her neighborhood, and she put an arrow where her house used to be. And she said, the night before I was with my parents having dinner. So you never know, Roberto. It's just It's crazy. But
we just got Daniel Pantaleon, one of the New York City fans, just wrote us saying that Carlos Vela lost his house.
Wow.
There.
So we'll just hope losing your house is better than losing your life. So
100%, and you just hope that everybody got out safe. You can replace material things. Some things are harder than others. I get that, but you just want to be able to get out of there alive, and hopefully you have all the right insurance and everything, and that gets taken care of properly and quickly. And we just hope that they need rain. They need rain desperately, and that the firefighters out there can do their job and try to contain this. It's just horrific.
Yep. So after Santa Barbara, more inland, and I checked Palm Springs and Indio, California, and that they have, they seem to be in a safety zone there, and possibly because of the mountains in the area helping to protect. I'm not sure.
It's considerable distance away. As a matter of fact, when I went to Palm Springs, when New York City played the Galaxy, there was a fire out there in the mountains that they were trying to contain. And so they were having their own issues there at that point, but it was nothing like the magnitude of the fire that is going on near LA right now. It's just massive.
So from Santa Barbara to Indio, that's the Coachella Invitational. 12 MLS teams beginning on February 5th. That's when New York City's first scrimmage will be, or preseason. First preseason scrimmage there. They're playing a couple of matches prior to that, and that's against Sporting KC. So, Roberto, as you know, I'm heading out in part for SiriusXM FC, hopefully interviewing every coach and a player from each team. There's a guy named Ryan Need who contacted me. He is the set piece coach for the Chicago Fire, and he wants to come on, man, and talk about set pieces. So I'm looking forward.
All right, we love set pieces.
And Miles Joseph has committed to a round of golf because Charlotte's going to be there. So hopefully,
all right,
hopefully that happens.
Be fun.
Too. Yeah.
I've got to get out there. I have friends where I could stay near Coachella. I hope I can make it out there, even if it's just for 2-3 days, and watch one of the games and just annoy you for 3 days. That would be fun.
Well, I don't really have friends out there, but I pay for an Airbnb. I mean, you could also do that, Roberto.
I could, but why if I have friends?
Anyway, the other thing is that what I'm hoping that it matches up with last year, that I'm hoping that I'll be on live streams of the last 3 games. There's 4. They're playing 4 in New York City. So, but that has yet to have been figured out. It's not decided how that's going as far as the production of it and permission, and there's rights and all these different things. And it's
I sort of remember that, Glenn. I remember you and I talking about that experience.
Which experience was that?
Doing the live stream last year from Coachella.
I'm not following you. Are you mocking me? I can't tell what you're doing.
No, Glenn, I would never mock you. How dare you?
Well, what are you saying? I don't know what you're saying. We talked about it.
I remember that there were some challenges on being able to broadcast the games last time on the live stream.
Yes, it was interesting to be there in person and call the game off a monitor. I guess that's what we talked about. But you know what? I don't care.
Were you underneath the stands or something like that?
Yeah, but if they want me to do it from the Airbnb, I'll do it. It's a chance to get away too. And but 24 interviews later for SiriusXM and hopefully some streams.
All right.
I'll be burnt out, but I'll be able to sit around.
Especially in the sun. At least it's not summer in Palm Springs, because that's obscene.
Now, Thiago Andrade, this was interesting, wasn't it? Now, he gets drafted by San Diego, and New York City leaves him unprotected. Then San Diego trades him to Toronto. So we're thinking, Toronto, that's interesting. There's no coach, but and I had it kind of almost further confirmed that it's not going to be Jim Curtin, it doesn't appear that it will be Jim Curtin in Toronto. And now Thiago is. Well, I don't think it's been a specified age. It's just an Asian club.
Yeah, I saw that today.
For a transfer fee of $500K, which is interesting.
Nothing.
So So he's gone. I guess, but I don't remember who reported that, and but it was several. I saw it in several stories. So
yeah, I saw it on social media as well as I was getting ready to set all this up, and I saw that, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's gone. The other thing we haven't spoken about is Matt Freese. Welcome to the U.S. national team. That is freaking awesome and well deserved. I'm very happy. Mauricio Pochettino called him in because he damn deserved it.
That's good because I forgot that that's happened since our last NYCFC Views Live. In fact, that was announced the day that Pascal Jansen was announced by New York City. And it was unfortunate for Matt just from a publicity standpoint because that got, the digital team put out a really nice post later, but it was all Pascal Jansen from about, 10 or 11 a.m. on until this is great. And he's in there with, who is it? Drake Callender, with Schulte.
And Zach Steffen, I believe.
And Zach Steffen. Those are the four. So, and there's going to be a couple of friendlies in there. So it's hard to.
They're playing against Venezuela and Costa Rica. So Venezuela in Miami, Costa Rica in Orlando. So those will be the two. Those will be the two matches that they'll have. I might, if my schedule works out, I might be able to go to the Orlando game, and then from there, I'm going to go on vacation to Mexico. That's my thought right now. I don't know if I can get that, if I can do that, but I'm going to try. So it would be great to go down to Orlando, see the game, and then from there go to Mexico and spend a couple of weeks in Mexico City and Acapulco.
I thought you were going to pontificate a bit on whether Matt Freese might see any time, rather than.
It'd be great if they did. So they got 2 games and 4 goalies. I don't know what he's going to. I don't know what Mauricio is going to do as far as, what hierarchy is there. Schulte is played. Obviously, Steffen is played. Callender has been called up in the past, but hasn't played. And this is the first call up for Matt Freese.
I would play Callender and Freese. I'm telling you, if he's truly trying to get what you're getting with Zach Steffen. Just don't.
But does he know? I mean, that's the thing. We've seen him, but has he seen him? Right? This is all new from Mauricio.
Well, all you have to do is watch film, man.
Well, you can watch film on Matt Freese too. I mean, what are you going to do? Watch film on the U.S. national team? With him there, you can watch film and playing in his club.
You can watch Steffen perform for the national team as well, even though it was a while ago. And I don't know. I just think if you're bringing guys in to give them an opportunity, training with a keeper coach and playing small-sided games and maybe full-sided scrimmages internally, I don't know.
Maybe he winds up giving everybody a half.
Boy, I don't think so. But it'll be interesting to see how he handles it. I think we said this from the outset when he was hired. It's going to be very interesting to see how he figures out who's going to be his number one keeper. It's Matt Turner right now, you'd have to say. But
Matt isn't playing. Matt's on the bench for Crystal Palace, so he only gets to play on in cup games. Nobody. It's a very weird situation for goalies in the U.S. We've never had a situation like this before. We always had guys who were starting in, big enough teams.
All right, so good for Matt Freese. And that is excellent, Roberto. That is excellent.
It's well-earned. Well-earned.
Major League Soccer put out, we know that this documentary is coming out, or this series. It's an Apple TV Plus thing. I think it's called Onside Major League Soccer. We have learned, and we learned this together, that it's an 8-part series, and I don't know if that's been publicized. But one thing we know about New York City, because Box to Box was out several times, and it just happened to be during Derby weeks when they were out at the training facility. So the Hudson River Derby 2024 version, which was 3 matches, including the playoff game, we believe will be featured in one of the episodes of this series. So it looks, and there's Malachi Jones is driving in a car. That was the little clip they showed of New York City and a little bit in the crowd. But we do think it's Derby centric. So for the Red Bull supporters as well, so that'll be nice if that's actually the case.
100%.
Yeah. So the convention here, Roberto, is what's cool for me. So I've been coaching the game since 1981, and I've been coming to this thing since 1983. So it's like, and I've missed a couple for whatever reasons. But it's just it's the largest gathering of coaches in the world. And you have Jurgen Klinsmann spoke today. I was not able to go to that. Matt Crocker I was not able to go to that.
Interesting. The thing that came out of that was that he said he sort of liked the idea of the schedule that MLS plays because they get to play in the summer, and he think that that's a positive. So for all the Euro snobs are like, oh my God, we've got to play the European calendar, etc. And then here comes Klinsmann and goes, that's not necessarily, which is great. I love when you throw a monkey wrench into this stuff.
Well, it's funny too because regarding MLS, when he was the national team coach, he was telling everybody, "You got to get out of here, man. You got to go play overseas." Develop, and that was counter to the way I think
did not make Don Garber happy.
No, but I didn't see anything else from that. But it was amazing. It was not even close the highest attended session here because I was just outside the door at a table, which is where I was with Troy Lesesne, and there was standing room only. I mean, there were no seats. Like one guy was sitting at this table, and he just said, "I can't go in because I have to be able to sit, and I can't sit." So I'll look forward to hearing back a little bit more about that. I think your boy Jonathan Tannenwald was in there. So
yes, he was.
So is that where you saw the tweet?
Yes, it was.
Oh, of course. Your bro. And I think he also had a chance to talk to B.J. Callahan. So B.J. Callahan, his story is really, it's a great one. And his grandfather was a very influential men's basketball coach at Villanova while he was growing up. So he got thrust into coaching pretty early, at least the mindset. And but the fact he's gone from the U.S. men's national team now to Nashville, and understanding that these are his first head coaching positions, other than he said like a U10 or U11 boys team at the club level. So I think, there's a lot of trust there. And he looking forward to work with Mike Jacobs at Nashville. But these guys are just a great chat with BJ about all kinds of things. And Troy, talking to Troy about specializing the coaching fraternity, bringing in it's a set piece coach, throwing coach, whatever it might be. And it was funny because I ran into Harksey on the way in, and he was like, and he's asked, "What do you think of this?" We started talking about that set piece coaches, and Harksey was like, "Man, if you can't set up set pieces for your team, do you really need a full-time coach to do that?" Because this guy at Chicago, that's what he does. He doesn't work in any other capacity within the first team. He just does set pieces. So kind of anxious to talk more about that. And but Emma Hayes was the most, I think, fascinating one. She's highly intelligent, Roberto. And
yes, I know that. I've heard her speak on so many different things, and I'm always like so impressed. Not that I should be overly impressed. I expect her to be brilliant, and but she doesn't disappoint in any way, shape, or form. There's always something to learn when she talks.
No, there is. And listen to how she learns. But first, I started the interview asking her if it was true that she studied intelligence with the goal to work for MI6, which is the CIA in London. And she said, yes, that's what I was going to do. So I wanted to know if her, because she loves spy shows, and what's the Slow Horses? I think is this. Have you watched that show, Slow Horses?
I haven't seen it. I've heard very good things about it, but
oh my god! So she was like, "Oh yeah, I've watched that," and we got it. Well, I would like to personally recommend that to anybody listening or watching right now. Go to Slow Horses, and it's Gary Oldman, and it's just an unbelievable series. And apparently they've re-upped. But then she turned to coaching. But you'll like this, Roberto. So my next question was, how do you educate yourself? Because I know she's a learner. She reads, she listens to podcasts, but she's visiting. Listen to this. She's visiting several NFL coaches during the next 6 months. She wants to go in and see how they operate because of their specialization, co-head coaches, coordinators, in charge of the, you know what I mean, the defensive line, offensive line, all these things, because the coaching situation in soccer is becoming more specialized that way. So she's ever developing her brain in that way. She's going to visit NBA coaches because she wants to, talk to them about player movement. What are their bodily functions and movements, to get rebounds, their anticipation, things like that. How do they work on these things? Mm-hmm. And then she's going and to visit with a handful of Premier League managers on the men's side as well. So I
think that's fantastic. Remember when Patrick was around, and because I've covered other sports, I do the NFL, the NBA, NHL, etc. And I once asked Patrick, and I said, Patrick, have you ever self-scouted did you ever self-scout? And he was like, well, what do you mean? And I go, have somebody who works in the organization of CFG come and evaluate your team without you knowing and figuring out how you play and how to play against you. And he was like, no, I haven't done that. And I wonder, because those are the type of things that you do in the NFL and that you do in other sports. And I'm like, why isn't this being done here? And maybe you learned something about your own team that you didn't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, do you remember? I think we talked about this. I think it was here we spoke about this. Andre Agassi playing Boris Becker. Did we talk about this?
Yeah, the tongue.
Yeah, exactly. There was a tell. He knew where he was going to serve based on what he did with his tongue, right? So Agassi knew where Boris Becker was going with the ball, if he was going, into the body or he was going wide, depending on what he did with his tongue. And he didn't use it all the time. He only used it when the game was really, really close and he desperately needed a point. And then he was going to go and do it because he didn't want to show that he knew. And those are the type of things that sometimes you can learn, right? That you don't know that your team is doing, that there's a tell, and that maybe somebody else can figure it out because they're scouting you. Yeah. And they don't do it in soccer, and I find it amazing that they don't do it.
Well, they do have people above observing, but I know exactly what you're saying. It's not the same necessarily, where you're trying to figure out how teams are going to beat you.
Yeah.
But, another one, as far as kind of that sort of review, and this came out of her book, Emma Hayes. She's got a leadership book, which if there are coaches of any sport watching or listening to this, just go get it. Okay, just go get it, and especially if you coach women, because there's certain aspects of it too that deal on the women's side, which is you have to handle it differently at times than the men's side. But she said at Chelsea, where she won 12 trophies. I mean, she had an incredible experience there. She had the team reflect and review. She's got this reflect and review, but she has the team review and critique the coaching staff and what's going on. And she said it made her assistants very uncomfortable because normally you don't have, that's not the norm. I don't know many coaches that do that. They might evaluate each other like their peers within the staff, but they have the players. You'll get feedback from players about things, but this was pretty in depth, and and she said making changes sometimes because of that, and it's just I always said about Anson Dorrance, the University of North Carolina women's coach, he's sort of a polarizing figure at times. I love him, but the one thing you can't deny is he's a genius. And I really think Emma, I think she's in that category. And, you can tell when people are just trying to BS you, in an interview like this. And there's, and like you said, you've heard her enough. But I was asking her, coaching questions, and, there's no, she's got it covered, man. And she's still learning, obviously. She's going out to see all these coaches. Oh,
we should all still be learning. Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't be in the business of coaching if you actually think you know it all.
Yeah, and I think in these days, I think most people are in that category. But my favorite quote ever, Roberto, I don't know if I ever shared this with you. John Wooden, the great UCLA coach, his quote was, "It's what you learn after you know it all that counts." Just think about that.
Yeah.
How great is that?
Well, hence why he's one of the great college basketball coaches of all time. And he brought UCLA, I don't know how many titles in a row.
I think it was 10.
It was quite a few. Right?
It
of
was,
course, it helped to have Lou Alcindor and Bill Walton.
It helped, but it's what you learn after you know it all that counts. I would have my players put that on their mirror, in their whatever, lipstick, whatever you want to do, man. Make it out there permanently so you're looking at it every day. But it's and being humble about it. So anyway, so all those again, will air, and I'll bring some clips onto our show too. The ones, something that I think is interesting because I know most people watching and listening just want us to talk about NYCFC, and I know I'm a little outside of my realm.
We are an NYCFC centric show, so that's understandable. Although right now there isn't a lot of news. The only thing we found out that today was that Santi Rodriguez was supposed to be available for the press conferences in Miami, and for some reason he wasn't. We don't know why. It's also his birthday, but happy birthday, Santi.
Happy birthday, Santi. Yeah, it's a big MLS Media Day in Miami, but the Media Day you want to focus on is when I get all these interviews out. 12 out of 30 teams are there. That's pretty crazy.
And
right?
That tournament is growing. I wish people, it's grown as far as importance and relevance, and obviously MLS and the teams have embraced it. I would really like to see a lot of soccer fans go out there and just fill the grounds and, fill the little stadium and all that, and let there be an atmosphere. You go and you say, well, this is an important tournament and everybody loves it. And then you go and you see there are 10 people there and you're like, well, does it mix?
But it's very expensive, that area too. And, that's for somebody from the East to go out and, from the New York City area. I mean, I would imagine most families are saving up for the real road trips.
No, I'm sure they are. But by the way, there are worse places to be than Coachella, Palm Springs in the middle of beginning of February, as opposed to being in New York.
Yeah, it was like the temperature was perfect last year. I mean, it was just like crazy. And then you get to go visit Joshua National Forest and watch sunset or National Park.
I haven't been there. I got a tour of Palm Springs, which is amazing, which is fantastic.
So one other Emma thing is that she brought Neon Deion Sanders into U.S. Women's National Team camp to inspire her ladies. And the reason she got to know him is that she loved him watching him play football, because Emma was in the States for a while before she went back to England and to coach Chelsea. So I thought that was pretty good too.
One of the things about Deion Sanders that people don't understand and people should know is that Deion Sanders was one of the hardest working people in practice that anybody has ever seen. He honed his craft every time. Yes, when it was time to play, he was a showman and he did all these things to bring attention to himself. But when it came to preparation and taking that seriously, he was the best. It wasn't an accident. What happened with him and how good he was in 2 sports, and probably could have been in more, the fact that he played offense and defense in the NFL, it wasn't an accident. It isn't just all what people like to say, God-given talent. It was refinement by work, and it was sweat equity. And that's what some people don't understand about Deion. He earned it.
Well, he had trouble hitting a curveball and a slider, so his Yankee career was short-lived. But
he was still a 2-sport player.
I agree, but he was no Bo Jackson. Come on,
no, Bo was Bo. On the NFL level, he was not on the baseball level.
Not on the baseball. All right, but Neon Deion Sanders giving him a plug too. Let's kick it around, Roberto. Well, earlier you mentioned that the U.S. men are going to play Costa Rica, who have a new manager. And I figured you'd want to chime in on this one, Roberto.
Oh, my God.
Former Mexican national team. What has he coached? Every team in Liga MX at one point or another? Miguel Herrera.
Piojo Herrera. El Piojo Herrera, he's a character. He's a very, very good coach. He won championships with America. He was a coach also of Tijuana for a while. He's coached several teams in Mexico, came up playing for a team called Atlante. I remember him when Atlante was in first division and he was playing for them. Very hard-nosed player, wears his heart on his sleeve, especially as a manager. Coached the Mexican national team and was fired from the Mexican national team because he got into an argument, into a fight with the lead announcer of TV Azteca, Martignoli, at the airport in Philadelphia, and he went up and he punched him. So that is, and so that sort of cost him his job, as it turns out. Who knew? You punch a reporter and you get fired. Who knew? So
I thought they might, respect him more for that, knowing how the media, the disdain for the media.
It's terrible. The media and its disdain for players and coaches and vice versa, and that confrontational relationship that always exists in Mexico, where you're trying to make yourself big by having the most bombastic things to say and being overly critical. It's horrific. It's just absolutely horrific. I'm always talking against that in Mexico. Just analyze, do your job. But everybody's gotta try to become famous, and if they get into fights and all that, that's all positive, but it's not. But anyway, so he's a very good coach, and to have him for Costa Rica is going to be interesting as as they're renewing their national team. They're trying to get younger. They brought in players like Alonso Martinez, who has thrived there now. So it's going to be great talking to Alonso about Piojo, and then maybe we'll see Piojo Herrera here in New York City doing some scouting of Piojo and of Alonso and others.
That would be fun. That'd be fun. Maybe we'll see him out at training. Hey, a guy you like a lot. I mean, a lot of people do. I do as well. But you mentioned him quite often. Antonee Robinson, named the U.S. Soccer Male Player of the Year, has played in every minute of all 20 matches for Fulham. I mean,
he wasn't only the U.S. national team Men's Player of the Year. He was Fulham's Man of the Year after last season. So he has just been fantastic. He is now establishing himself as one of the best left backs in the world. And there's a lot of larger teams than Fulham that now seem to be very, very interested in bringing him in. I hope he stays at Fulham, unless he's going to make a ton of money someplace else. But, Fulham always seems to have great American players and thriving there. Clint Dempsey was there for a long time, and, Tim Ream was there for a long time, now in Charlotte. And Jedi has been fantastic. And he and Pulisic are right now the two best players for the U.S. national team. And McKinney has played very well as well in Juve. He's done great. And that's a great story too. The McKinney story is a fantastic story, as the last 2 seasons, 2 different managers have basically said, go look for a job someplace else. And he's like, nah, I'm sticking it out. I'm going to earn my way back. And now he's playing left back. How about that? He's playing left back and start wherever they need him. They play him. I think it just speaks to his mentality, and that's great. And I've got one more little player thing for you, and that is Richie Ledesma.
I was just going to bring him up because you talked about left back. Let's go to right back. And the report is that PSV wants to keep him and other teams want him. I mean, this is crazy.
It seems that Club America in Mexico, where Alex Sendejas plays, who, by the way, Alex Sendejas is now one of the top players in America, which is the best team in Mexico. They won 3 championships in a row. But it seems that they're very interested in Richie Ledesma to come and play for them. So we know Richie can play a few positions. They've moved him to right back this season with Serginho Dest, another American player, being injured. He's coming, he's getting close to coming back. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. If Richie, who's on vacation, I saw that he was in Arizona. I don't know when that ends and he has to go back. But, we'll see what happens with Richie Ledesma. In Club America, their coach, Jardim, who's Brazilian, Botafogo was very interested in him and seemed to have made an offer, but he's not going anywhere. He's staying in Mexico. So he's going to be there at Club America.
So I think you know this, and I'm just saying it. I'm going to see Anthony Robinson next week in person because I'm going to London to watch West Ham play a couple of games. Now this is
there's a small little. I was thinking about you today.
There's a story
here.
Small
little problem.
It's not a problem. I'm still going to the games, so I'm going to 2 West Ham games: Fulham and I believe Palace. They play Palace on a Tuesday
so
and then
you
a
get to see
Saturday.
Matt Turner too.
Yes. Well, probably on the bench, but yes.
Yes.
And then I'm actually covering for TalkSport International the Newcastle Wolves game at St. George's Park. I've never been there, and I hear it's just such a great environment.
When you say covering, are you doing color?
No, I'm not. I wish, but no, I'm not.
Because then we could hear you here on TalkSport on channel 157.
That'd be fun.
Yes, it would be. I can imagine people. Can you imagine the amount of people freaking out over an American talking
voice?
About the EPL, even though you speak all in Britishese or whatever that is, that you speak in when you speak in soccer terms or football terms for you. It still wouldn't be good enough because you're an American. So it doesn't matter what you know, you don't know enough.
Not just getting a little tape and stuff like that. So that'll be. And then
I would love to see everybody freak out on Twitter. There's an American voice on TalkSport doing the EPL. What's wrong with them? That would be great.
And I'm going to get a chance to go to Old Trafford as well. Manchester United, Southampton. That's not a great opponent, but still to go to Old Trafford. But it's
By the way, you know that they don't have a video board in Old Trafford. I did not know this. Eddie and Brenda went to a game. I don't know if it was earlier, like late last year or at some point last. They went to a game, and Eddie's like, there are no video replays anywhere. There's no board. There's no place to put one in. So now they're talking about rebuilding.
Where do they put out? Where do they put the VAR in that? The VAR, checking on a handball or whatever. They've got no.
Nope. They have like a scoreboard that literally gives you the scores. That's it. There's no video board, no replays in the stadium unless you have it on your phone.
I like it, old school. Even though I hope it doesn't rain because then the roof will leak. Maybe top of where we're sitting. Now the story behind West Ham, I think it's fairly interesting and it's sad, but my friend is handling it quite well. He says he's fine. A guy I
Check in on him.
A guy I met through my radio show and became great friends. His name is Edu Rubio, first team assistant for West Ham under Julian Lopetegui. They were sacked yesterday because West Ham they've been poor, but they got sacked yesterday. So, but he promised me he still had the tickets for me, but he will not be in the stadium. And I said, I understood. So I'm still going to those games and meeting up with Edu, who,
I was reading the story on it, and it was an interesting story. I was reading it earlier today because I figured we're going to be talking about this.
You sent it to me, and I haven't gotten through it yet. What is it? Is it
basically that they made a big mistake by hiring him? Because who was before that? Was it David Moyes who was before them?
Yeah, Moyes.
So the problem with Moyes that he didn't attack enough, and he wasn't, that they weren't aggressive enough offensively. And they brought in Lopetegui, and basically they had pretty much more of the same. And they were like, it was like buyer's regret. Like the minute they hired him, they were like, oh crap, now what did we do? And so he was on borrowed time from day one, unless he started winning a load of games. Which
Now,
he
can
did,
I ask you this story, which I haven't read? Is it like from the Telegraph or one of those?
It's The Athletic.
Huh?
It's The Athletic.
And who are they quoting? I'm curious.
Sources.
Okay. All right.
They don't have. As far as I remember, I mean, I read it this morning.
All right.
That's
I'll
ancient
read
history
it
for me.
I'll read it and share it with Adu and see what he. Well, I'll get the inside scoop now. Adu,
You'll get the inside scoop.
Well, but
sure.
I know what he's going to say. He goes, "You can't tell anybody this," but then he'll tell me everything. So I'm sorry, I won't be able to share it, but maybe there'll be a couple things I could say. I don't know, because that stuff is interesting to me, because obviously in the Premier League, you're hired to be fired. You know, everybody gets fired, and unless you're Alex Ferguson,
or Pep Guardiola. True that. Jurgen Klopp didn't get fired. He left on his own terms. So there are some people that don't get fired.
Okay,
because they're good.
I'll put it this way: it's rare.
Okay, I agree.
And the championship is even worse. I mean, those guys they get hung very quickly. I think I read a stat, Roberto, and it was for.
I think you're only speaking of Wayne Rooney, who seems to lose a job every other month there.
No, the life expectancy. This is as of like 2 years ago. It was a guy like Michael Calvin, who's a great writer over there. It was like 9 months was the average length of term for championship coaches. I mean, that's just crazy, that you don't give somebody more of a chance at that. Coaching, the thing about coaching that is that just boggles my mind is you need time, man.
Yeah.
You have to, in order to put in, especially if you're coming in and putting something new in, like BJ Callahan at Nashville. I mean, he's got a whole new thing going on, and with a lot of good players, and we'll see how it goes. Can he help Hani Mukhtar have a better year, things like that. But it takes time.
Funny thing, it takes time. And the funny thing is that we try to teach our kids, we try to teach players that it's okay to make a mistake, right? When you're coaching, You're telling people it's okay to make a mistake. You learn from your mistakes. That's the whole point. If you don't try something, then you're never going to learn anything. So try it. You screw up, fine. You learn from it. And then in coaching, you don't get that. You don't get to screw up. You don't get to learn. Even though we're telling people this is the best way to learn, you've got to try things and you've got to make mistakes and all that. But when it comes to coaching, you're not allowed to make mistakes. You're not allowed, because if you make a mistake, you're gone. You don't get the chance to learn.
No, but
nuts.
The game is. I think I don't want to oversimplify. The game is rather simple per se, but it has complexities within each game model that these coaches have, which covers every corner of the field. How we do things here, how we do things here. Do we press high? When do we press? Is it Atalanta playing man marking? I mean, and even Lopetegui. And look, I watch West Ham play pretty closely because Adu is there, and they were tough to watch. They weren't connected, and they conceded goals. They leaked some very, very difficult goals. But he was still only there for 7 months. So, and you could say, well, that's all right.
Was it like 22 games he got? Something like that? I think he got like 22 games.
Yeah. So anyway, so I'm going to London with my buddy who was sacked, and then I'm going to see a few other people too. But it's looking forward to the trip. Educational trip. I'll be writing it off. I just like the federal government to know I'm doing a lot of soccer stuff, so I'll be writing this trip off and getting interviews and all that.
Good job. Definitely do that.
I wanted to there were two other things that are completely nonsense, but not nonsense. One of them is, I think pretty impactful. First of all, there was a Portuguese second division soccer match. I don't know if you saw this on social media. And I meant to save it and have Shane put it up for us here, but you can just envision this. They ran out of paint, so for the goal line, they were painting the goal line with milk. They had a carton of milk.
Yeah, I saw.
So I was To me, but I love these stories. This is like Farcher's Grove in New Jersey, man. We're out of paint. We're going to put milk down, man. So that was one thing. And then Montclair State, which is a Division III school here in Jersey, they dropped men's and women's lacrosse. So you're saying, come on, why are you saying this? Well, it's because they're adding Division III women's flag football. I did not know this existed. Did you know that there was women's flag football intercollegiately?
No.
So,
I'm surprised they're dropping lacrosse, especially in the Northeast.
15,000 signatures to reinstate those programs. I mean, there's a lot of
this is the Northeast. I understand if you're dropping lacrosse in Texas. I don't understand dropping lacrosse in New Jersey.
Well, it's it's a balancing act too. So you dropped a men's sport and a women's sport, but then you're adding a woman, so now it's +1 on the women's side. And there's gender equity and Title IX that you have to really adhere to. So you have to look at it. But I just brought it up because I'd never heard of women's flag football, which.
I know that there's, not collegiately. I know there's a lot of flag football, and it's played here. It's played in Mexico. There's championships.
That's my kind of football, man. I don't want to get hit by a 6'5" guy and put on the deck. I just want to catch the ball and grab my flag and okay, baby, let's get back to the huddle. Football was never going to be my game. It was never going to be my game, Roberto.
Look, you could have been a good running back.
No, you know what I would have been excellent at? Because, we all played football in the backyard and all this other street football, whatever. I have good anticipation skills. I would have been an incredible safety. Incredible, I think.
Okay.
Because I picked off, I lead the Basking Ridge neighborhood in career interceptions when we would play our little five-a-side games.
There you go. A little known fact. I'm surprised that isn't been. I'm surprised I didn't see that on your LinkedIn.
No, I should put that in my signature page on my email, which I get crap for all the time. Could you add more things on there?
Yeah, exactly. It is pretty damn long.
So under comments, there was a question from George, NYCFC. When are they going to make player moves? We don't have any.
We know when they're going to make player moves. They're going to make player moves as late as freaking possible because this has been the history of the team. Not that they're trying to do that on purpose, mind you, but that's the way it's worked out.
Yeah. So we would anticipate things will occur. However,
now that they have a new coach, now they can, there's going to. I'm sure there's going to be a meeting of the minds between Pascal Jansen and David Lee, and what they're looking for, what he thinks he needs, and and who he might want to bring in that he knows that is his guy.
Yeah,
they're coaches that like to bring their players.
No, that could be well be it this time. Although I would imagine they're talking every day at this point. But maybe you just don't know how long in any kind of conversation in this manner it's gone. But I think you're right. One part of the delay process here is you want your coach in first before you start bringing players. Although in many cases the sporting director or GM will knows the needs. They've been identified and could bring a player into on their own. So that's it. Anything else in here that we no?
I don't think we missed anything. For an odd beginning of January Thursday when not much is going on. We had quite a things to say.
There is, the news. I just saw it. Hudson River Blue had a Jovan Daniel Pantaleon again as the news regarding Jovan Mijatovic involved in a car accident. So I don't know if there's any update on that. I don't know. Did you see that?
I know that the only thing that I heard was that he hit a pedestrian and he stopped and stayed there, which is what you're supposed to do. And I don't know. At some point I heard that the pedestrian was in very serious condition. I haven't seen anything since. Danielle, if you have any new news on that, I haven't seen it. Just post it before we go. So hopefully we can update people. But it's got to be horrific. God, you hit somebody with a car. Oh, God.
No, and you don't know
Terrible.
the circumstance. I mean, I think we've all probably at some point in our lives come close to doing that because it's dark sometimes, or people wearing black. And, whatever it might be, and
Yeah.
and where you just, or they come out, they maybe come on a bicycle or something where they're, it's almost impossible to see them based on the angle of approach or something. So no, it's that's as scary as it gets. That's as scary as it gets. So hopefully,
I hope the person is okay, and
Yeah.
I hope Johan is okay and mentally okay, because that sort of stuff stays with you.
yeah, no question about it. All right, Roberto. Well, I am at the convention in Chicago. I was, by the way, I was on the convention floor, and I was all set up, kind of, to have a little of the buzz around me. But then a band started playing, or music started playing, blaring, because tonight's the big night when they open up the merch area. The merch
Oh, God.
yeah. So they go crazy, and that opened and I'm thinking I got to get back out of here.
I miss that. I love going and walking by and seeing all the new equipment and everything that no good player in the world has ever used in their lives to get good. But it's definitely necessary to create the next Lionel Messi.
Oh, come on. Some of this stuff is worthwhile. Are you kidding? A lot of tech. I'll tell you what's happened is, boy, the tech has really increased over the years. The different, whether it's Speedio or VO or, whatever the.
I'm teasing, right? So.
Yeah. But it's all very interesting. So if anything else comes from the convention, I'll report it next week. So we'll have to time this one out next week. I'm going to be somewhere. Hopefully that has Wi-Fi and we can do this.
Well, the thing is that if you're doing this from London, if you're going to be, are you going to be in London next week? Is that when you go?
If we do it Thursday, I'll be taking a train to Manchester, and we'll not have a room. So we may have to think this through a little bit and see.
Yeah, because it's not only that, Glenn, but the fact of the matter is that 7 o'clock here is 2 o'clock in the morning there. 1 o'clock in the morning there. So we gotta, we gotta keep that in mind as well. It may be an earlier version.
An earlier version. Yeah, that's well past my bedtime. But who knows? All right, Roberto, good to see you. Shane, thank you very much for producing this thing. I'm Glenn Crooks, and thanks for joining us on another NYCFC Views Live.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast NYCFC Views on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.